Neoclassical orthodoxy tells us that the U.S. is the bastion of free and unfettered capitalism and has the world's largest economy and the richest population as a result.
High priests of neoclassical economics, like Milton Friedman and his acolytes, favor words like free trade and free enterprise. This is the flavor of economics favored by business schools and the business press. Inevitably, they preach that working in their own self-interest benefits everyone. A study released by the Canadian Federation of Independent Business found that the cost of regulation and compliance is higher in the U.S. than it is in Canada. This is particularly true for our smallest businesses with 5 or fewer staff. The study found the costs for small businesses in the U.S. were 59% higher than they were for their small Canadian counterparts in 2021.
While business schools and capitalists speak in favor of free markets and free enterprise, they invariably lobby for regulations to protect the public interest. The gospel, according to neoclassical economists, dates back to Adam Smith's groundbreaking book titled The Wealth of Nations. Smith describes how individuals, each working in their own self-interest, could specialize and become more productive. They were guided by the invisible hand of competition that made each of us more productive. The theory is elegantly simple and, for the most part, it's true.
But Smith was critical of monopolies. According to ChatGPT, he believed that competition was essential for a well-functioning market economy. In his seminal work, The Wealth of Nations, Smith argued that monopolies distort markets, hinder competition, and can lead to inefficient allocation of resources. He advocated for free markets with multiple competing firms to promote innovation, efficiency, and consumer welfare.
Unlike business school economists, modern capitalists are monopolists. Warren Buffett, the legendary investor, popularized the term economic moat, which refers to a business's ability to maintain competitive advantages over its competitors in order to protect its long-term profits and market share.
An economic moat is really a synonym for regulatory protection. The United States are the world's most talented and experienced economic protectionists. America's 51 states each behave like a separate country. There are different regulations in every state, county, and city based on different concepts of economic and physical nexus. Canadian exporters are forced to navigate these Byzantine regulations that change frequently enough to confuse indirect tax specialists there. One U.S.-based indirect tax specialist informed us that it's been estimated U.S. tax jurisdictions are responsible for about 1,000 tax changes there, every day.
After 2 rounds of supposed free trade negotiations in 1987 and again in 2019, Canada still doesn't have free access to U.S. markets for lumber and forest products. This despite having an obvious comparative advantage. As the world's second-largest country, Canada is sparsely populated. At 1.3 billion acres, the Canadian boreal forest is one of the largest intact forest and wetland ecosystems remaining on Earth. It is a major source of North America's freshwater and home to some of the planet's largest populations of wolves, grizzly bears, and woodland caribou. Somehow, U.S. lumber producers have managed to argue that Canada's forest industry is unfairly subsidized. Apparently, God doesn't charge us enough in stumpage, giving us an unfair advantage over wealthy wood lot owners in the U.S. When business schools and business professionals argue that Canada is more highly regulated, they are really complaining about the levels of taxation on the wealthiest. The share of wealth owned by the poorest 50% of Americans amounts to only 1.5% of total wealth. This is among the highest levels of wealth inequality among wealthy nations. In Canada, the poorest 50% of the population holds about 6% of total wealth, which is comparable to both France and Sweden in Europe. At SBA Canada, we believe that business schools and the business professions have an unhealthy allegiance to wealthy and powerful citizens who represent their largest clients and customers.